Welcome back, Divas, to Dress Rehearsal, the podcast where Broadway and fashion take center stage, and we dive deep on the roles that shape us on stage and off. I'm your host, Mackenzie Jacob. Today's guest is Julia Knitel. Julia is currently lighting up the Broadway stage in Operation Mincemeat after earning a Tony Award nomination last season for her performance in Dead Outlaw. She made her Broadway debut at just 16 years old in Bye Bye Birdie and returned only a few years later in beautiful The Carole King Musical. Julia's light truly shines so brightly, and this conversation is no exception. We talk about guest judging Cat's the Jellicle Ball, the story behind her Tony Awards red carpet look. Yes, an NDA was involved. Why Broadway legend Beth Leavel once told her she shouldn't let show business know that she can dance, and so much more. Please enjoy this magical conversation with Julia Knitel. And welcome, Julia Knitel, to the podcast. How are you, Julia?
I'm so good. Happy to be here.
Happy to have you. We start every episode with, how did you get bit by the theater bug?
Oh, well, I was born with the theater bug inside of me. My stage debut was in utero. My mom was playing a pregnant Maria von Trapp in The Sound of Music. And it was a dinner theater production that ran long enough for her bump to start showing. And I got the theater bite very early.
I'm loving the thought of like coming to see the show and goes, oh, what a choice it is to see a pregnant Maria. We haven't seen that one before.
I know. And it was, of course, dinner theater in New Jersey. So like most of the audience was over 80. And they were like really, my mom had she overheard from the stage several times people being like, well, it doesn't look like she's a nun. Like all of these like snide remarks
Yes.
about the fact that she was clearly like 6 months pregnant.
And you know what? Let's suspend our disbelief, people. Like, you're
Amen.
get on board.
Amen.
And not only did you make your Broadway debut at 16 in Bye Bye Birdie, but you were also a Jimmy's kid. And so I went to the Jimmy's recently. And I just need to
Isn't
know,
it
like,
magical?
I felt things that and I also, not to be annoying, but I sat like 2 rows behind Matt Rogers. So to watch Matt Rogers watch Bowen Yang hosting, oh my God, I was like, that's the show.
Show within a show within a
Right.
show.
And then also just to hear all the industry people at the bar talking about like who they love, like who's going to be the next thing. And I was
Oh
trying
yeah.
to explain to my roommate, who's very normie, not a theater person. And I was like, no, it's not weird that I'm going to a High School Musical theater award as an adult.
No, no. Everyone's locked in.
But you were part of the first year of the Jimmys. So like, how wild is it to see what it's become?
Oh my God. I mean, I don't even it's sort of humbling to see how far it's come because I don't think any of us knew what it was or what it was going to be. It wasn't televised. It wasn't, it was just sort of like, hey, we got these kids who won these awards in their local states and these little tiny competitions and now we're all just gonna like bring them together and see what happens. And like that, it was very much like we had the training wheels on that first year for sure. And I just so happened to be starting my first Broadway show like minutes later. And I started rehearsals, I think it was like literally like 10 days after the Jimmy Awards. So it was a crazy time in my life. But I just remember like sort of forgetting about the Jimmys for a while. And then just a few years ago, when it really started to like ramp up and we had like, Renee Rapp, we had Jasmine Amy Rogers, like people were like popping out like crazy. I like locked back in and was lucky enough last year to go and present an award, which was magical. But I sat in the audience and like just wept. The sheer joy, the talent, the raw energy, just like so humbling, so inspiring, and so singular.
I think we need a version of The Search for Elle Woods, but just like a reality show of the Jimmy's week, because I
Yes.
would lock in on that.
Give the people what they need. Give
We
them what they need.
we have so much content, the market is oversaturated. This is what the people want.
This is what we want. This is what we need. It's beyond want.
Yes.
It's a
So
need.
I don't know how we're gonna make it happen, but it has to.
You make a few calls, I'll make a few calls. We'll see
Uh,
what we can do.
my people will call your people and we'll make it
Perfect.
happen. And something that's also so wild to me is that after Bye Bye Birdie, you ended up being back in the same Broadway theater for Beautiful. Can you
Yeah.
talk to me about like what that meant and kind of like having those years of growing up in between, like that homecoming.
Oh. Well, I mean, it was sort of I've gone a very unconventional route with my career. I dropped out of high school for my first Broadway show, which by the way, I went to the open call for Bye Bye Birdie. Was not a professional kid. I thought my parents would say no when I asked if we could even go. So it was sort of like this all happened very quickly. And it was a dream come true. I was asked to understudy. I was the dance captain. I had this like really holistic experience of what Broadway is like. And then it was, not taken from me, but the show closes. And
Hmm.
then you're 16, 17 years old, and I was 5'10" with a baby face. And like I couldn't play a kid, but I also couldn't play an adult. And so I sort of just spent like a handful of years from like 16 to 19 just auditioning for everything. I was lucky enough to get an agent from Bye Bye Birdie and was going in for a lot of things and getting down to like me and one other person for this job every time it went to the other person. And so I like sat down with myself and was like, okay, what am I missing? What's the piece of me that needs the most work? And I discovered, my parents they run a community theater company, they're voice teachers. So I had a lot of voice training. I had a lot of dance training. I didn't have a lot of acting training. And so when I was 19, I auditioned for any BFA program in acting that was in New York City and would take me with a GED. And there was only one of them. And it was Marymount Manhattan on the Upper East Side. And I got in and started training there and trained there for 2 years before ultimately leaving college for my second Broadway show, which was beautiful. And I know that the only reason I was asked to join the company of Beautiful as the cover for Carole King at 22 years old, and then to take over the role at 23 was because I had spent all that time acting training. Like really, really like understanding what it is to become a character, what it is, what my strengths were, what my weaknesses were, how I could bring myself fully to something. And so I'm so grateful for that time in between my first and second Broadway show because it really established who I am as an artist. And since then, I've been able to grow and expand through the work that I get to do, and like really just digging deeper every day on stage and off stage, and trying to become the best version of myself wherever I am. It was truly, I love that you said homecoming. That was exactly what it was. It was the same house managers, it was the same stage managers, it was all the same crew. And here I was, like, how many years later? 16 to 23. I'm terrible at math. 4, 5, 6, 7, 7 years
7.
later.
Hmm.
And I was just surrounded by all these people who I felt so safe with and so known by and so held by.
Mm.
And that was a really beautiful way for me to make my Broadway principal debut
Beautiful.
because I beautiful, the word loses its meaning. It
It
really
does.
does.
It does.
But it was beautiful. And it was so like I have this really profound memory of Johnny Krause, who is the ASM on Beautiful. I think he's retired now, but he was in both my first Broadway shows with me, and he stood backstage in the wings, like at the beginning of Beautiful. The piano is right there, and Carol rides out on the piano, and then like lights come up, and I'm just there by myself, 22 years old, scared out of my mind. And Johnny like took my shoulder and was like, "All right, Julia, go out there, Klein," which is Carole King's original name,
Mhm.
"and come back here a star." And I literally was like, okay, Johnny. Like it was the sweet. I have chills talking about it. And
Mhm.
he'd known me for, so many years and had seen me grow. And just to have like that be the fertile ground on which I was able to really develop who I am as an artist was so, so profound.
Totally. And we had Bethany Tessark on the podcast who was in Bye
Oh.
Bye Birdie with you. And it is interesting to hear people that go from being a young person in the theater and then having to like reintroduce yourself as an adult. And I
Hmm.
think Beautiful, for one, is one of my favorite shows. I think
Same.
people, if you see behind the like jukebox label, it is such a magical story and
Hmm.
triumphant and tells you so much about a person. And I think the fact that you played that role from so many different vantage points, like not only were you understudying, but you were seeing the entirety of the show. And so I'm curious for you, like, how do you feel like that helped you build confidence to go on as Carol because you knew the show inside and out?
Hmm. I will say that Carole King's arc in Beautiful, the Carole King musical has been my personal arc. I will cry if I talk about this. I really will. I didn't see it until last fall. when I was doing Beautiful for what may be the last time. We'll see.
Who's to say? You know,
Who's
that's what
to
the
say?
alphabets always say, and then they always
I
come
know,
back.
right? You can't they drag you back. But I took a big break from Beautiful because I did it on Broadway, I did it on the tour, and it was really, really hard on me on the tour. I was 23. I was just like I had overwhelming imposter syndrome. I didn't feel worthy of it. I really didn't trust myself. I just sort of was like really broken. And I came back to the city and was like, I need to get away from that show. And of course, they dragged me back, and I like went on several more times on Broadway in that period. But ultimately, when the show closed on Broadway, I said no to any offer to do it regionally. I was like, I don't want to do it. It causes me pain. I couldn't even listen to Carol's music for a really long time, which is a devastating loss in anyone's life, I will say. And all of a sudden, like I'd spent 4 years on tour with Come From Away, really healed my relationship to performing, and was able to like ride that show through the pandemic, which was really profound. And then the week we were closing Come From Away, someone offered me Beautiful in Aspen. And I said, well, how could I say no to Aspen?
I mean, to be a diva in Aspen,
To be
really.
a diva in Aspen. And I was like, yes, I'll do it. And it started this little chain of events where I did Beautiful, I think 3 times over the next like year and a half. And it ended with this one in Florida, which for me was really like, I keep using the word profound, but it was a profound experience
Mhm.
because I was on the precipice of what happened to me over the last year, which was all my dreams coming true, originating a role on Broadway, getting my first Tony nomination. And I didn't know any of that was coming yet. The
Mm.
same way that if you know Beautiful, the Carole King musical, like you and I do, Carol has to go out to LA before she can blossom and make Tapestry, and she has to sort of step out of her comfort zone. And we were closing this really incredible version of the show with a really incredible group of people. We were all going to like watch the sunset on our last night in Florida. And I'm driving there, and it all just hit me. I was like, oh my God. I have been on Carol's journey that I've been telling all over the country, all over the city. Like I've told this story thousands of times, and I never heard her lessons. And I like finally was like, oh my God, it's just about listening to your intuition, trusting yourself, knowing your worth, and believing that anything is possible. And I literally, like, in that moment of Carol being like, I'm going to sing the songs, I'm going to do Tapestry, it was the moment of Julia going, I'm going to trust myself. I'm going to give my life my all, and I'm going to see what happens. And like literally, I go home, we start rehearsals for Dead Outlaw, and the rest is history. And it was just this, like I was able to say thank you and goodbye to this show that had seen me through a decade of my life.
Mhm. I
It's
just
magic.
watched, they're doing like, I guess for the 250th of America, like the top songs on CBS mornings, and they talked to Carol, and she was saying how before she stood out as like her own singing voice, it was
Mhm.
James Taylor who kind of he gave her warm audiences. He would prepare the audience before she would go on and be like, you're in for a treat. Like you are lucky. And I think having those champions along your journey make the greatest difference. And also their live album, Live at the Troubadour, is one of my favorite things
I
ever.
listen to it all the time.
No, it
All the time.
I think it lives rent free in my house.
Same.
And so
Same.
I think how special it is to have those champions and the people you collect along the way that maybe
Mhm.
before you even saw how strong you were, you had people at the Sondheim Theater telling you like you can do it, and those people
Yeah,
seeing it in you before you could.
100%. And I have been fortunate in that way my whole career. And I do not take that for granted. And I am very humbled by it. It's a beautiful thing.
Beautiful.
Beautiful. Oh,
We
God.
can't. It's like a drinking game. Every time you
It
have to take a shot.
is.
And you did mention all of your dreams coming true. So we have to talk about last season. You were nominated for your stunning work in Dead Outlaw, which was a wildly original show that was gone too soon. But
Mhm.
you were nailing it on red carpets the entire season long. And
Oh,
so
thank you.
I'm curious for you, like, what is your philosophy on like mirroring the show you're in for like an opening night red carpet or even like in auditioning rooms?
I sort of am. I'm team show up in a way that makes you feel like you.
Mm,
Like as long like you can try to dress like a character, especially for an audition, but it has to like I'm never going to buy something new for an audition. I'm going to go to my closet and see what is the most in line with what I'm trying to represent
mm,
before I like go buy like a weird blazer because I'm going in for a lawyer. It's like I'm not, that's just not how I feel most comfortable when trying to do my best work. And similarly, like on a red carpet, I was very fortunate to work with some magnificent stylists, especially during Tony season last year, who I trusted really viscerally, but also everything felt like an extension of me. I never put on anything that felt like a costume, and I never put on anything that felt like too much of a statement or something that like I would look back on in 10 years and be like, what was I thinking? Like I do try to have a at the core of my style, like a timelessness. I wear a lot of vintage. I
mhm.
would say 90% of my closet is secondhand. And while that's harder to incorporate for like every red carpet you do, it's something where like I like to work with sustainable brands. I like to work with people who like really have a lot of integrity behind their design. And I was just really lucky to wear some beautiful clothes. And for something like Dead Outlaw, I was very much leaning into the soft feminine side of me because I love to play with androgyny. If I could be in a suit on every red carpet, I would be.
Yep,
But with that show and me representing like sort of this amalgamation of the divine feminine in so many different aspects, it felt true to me to always sort of show up a little more soft, a little more feminine, and I think that was represented in a lot of what I wore throughout the
totally.
season.
And I think it's your first Tony nomination. It's such an epic milestone. And so when you were going into Tony's night, how did you decide what gown you wanted to put on, like how you felt the most confident?
This is going to sound so woo-woo, but I did like I knew it was out there. Like I could feel it calling to me.
I
I was
can
like,
walk into a vintage store and know within 2 seconds if I'm buying anything or I'm empty-handed.
100%. It's an energy.
Hmm.
It's like these things are we're vibrating at the same frequency or we're not.
Hmm.
And if we are, I will find you. No, I knew she was out there. And it was interesting because Sarah Zanjajis, who is my stylist, I worked with her for opening night of Dead Outlaw and then also the Tony night. And she's like so fierce and has impeccable taste. But I tried on like 50 gowns and none of them were the gown. And I was like, what is this? Like, we can't find it. We knew it was this soft, silky, pale pink that I wore for opening immediately. And it's just not here yet. And she like pulled this dress out of a bag and she was like, this one's in rough shape. The person who wore it before you, they like didn't take good care of it. It's beaded and there's a lot of beads missing. Long story short, we put this dress on and it's the dress. It's the dress that I wore. It's the perfect dress. And I'm like, okay, I am on Broadway. I do have a team of impeccable tailors and costume folks who have already expressed to me that they are willing to help me in any way that they can. So let me see, like, leave this dress with me. I'll take it downstairs and see what they can do. Turns out, and I'm not allowed to name names because I think they have an NDA,
Oh,
but
perfect.
someone, like, full on, someone in the wardrobe team had worked for a pop star who just so happened to have the same beads on one of their gowns.
No,
Yes, and was able to take a few spare beads and rebead my entire dress
no way.
from the stock of a pop star. This is such lore,
But
and
I
I can't
mean,
say anymore.
talk about one,
But this
pop star energy on you. Two, it was the dress because everything came into place.
everything aligned. They said, I got you. I
Hmm.
already have those beads. They're in my apartment.
They're like,
Hold,
hold my
please.
beer. Like, we've got it.
Literally. Mended the few little stitches. My brilliant wardrobe head, Pam, got all of the there were little like stains in the thing, got them all out. Like they literally made this dress better to return it after a crazy night, like where I wore it for, 14 hours,
Right.
went back in better shape than it came to me.
I
Dreams.
do also have to say, so I'm 5'9", and being tall and standing in your power is something that I at least had to grow into. I don't know if I'm even there yet, but like once
100%.
you can get there, all bets are off.
Amen. And I will say it takes a while. Like it really does because there's not a lot of support for
Yeah.
us when we're
No.
little. And all the boys haven't grown yet.
And they still haven't.
No, they never will.
Isn't that prophetic? I do also think that the fact that you had been in the business for a while and they had really seen you grow up by the time you got to the Tony Awards, I can only imagine how special that was to then not just be in a room full of people that love the community, but like be in a room of people that have watched you grow up.
It's something that you hear about when you're young, like the Broadway community
Mm.
being a thing. And it it's so walking into the Tony Awards and seeing dozens of people that I knew and loved and had worked with. I had this beautiful moment with Rebecca Weber, who I did Beautiful the Carole King Musical with on Broadway, where she was there with her husband and she saw me and she immediately went into like mom mode and was like, "What can I get you? What do you need? Do you need to take a deep breath? Do you need a piece of gum? Do you need a little deodorant?" And I was like, "Thanks. Yes." Like it's such an overwhelming thing. And to be surrounded by so many friends and supporters, like I really I spent the whole next day in bed, but I like kept coming back to this feeling of like a million hands at my back. Like I could feel not only the people in, Radio City, not only the people at the Longacre who were watching from, their dressing rooms, but like all of the people that I've ever worked with, just like this a profound sense of support at my back and love and care and admiration no matter the outcome. And that was my favorite thing about the whole Tony season.
Totally. It's just the outpouring of knowing that you've touched people rather than whatever the award means to you. Just the fact
Yeah,
that like the people that you've met along the way make it so special.
absolutely.
And you got to play so many roles in Dead Outlaw, which you've done a few times. You did it in Come From Away also. And
Yeah.
now you are in Operation Mincemeat, where people are popping in and out of so many roles, I could not even keep track. So
Yeah.
I'm curious how those past shows really prepared you to step into Mincemeat.
I mean, immensely. I especially come from away because of the quick in and out of those roles. Whereas Dead Outlaw, I was like, okay, I'm this person, and then I step off stage, and I'm this person, and I step off stage, which also is very, very beneficial. But on Come From Away, like you're ripping your flight attendant hat off, putting it in your jacket, putting on this, and like changing your accent immediately, which is very, very been so such good preparation for Operation Mincemeat, which is the hardest thing I've ever done. And I say that with a smile, and I say that with like nothing but profound gratitude and joy in my heart. But it is so hard. And it is like a 2.5 hour marathon every single night. And I am so grateful that I have had the career experiences that I've had because I feel like I have a foundation to stand on. And honestly, one of the best training opportunities I could have ever possibly had was doing a Christmas Carol at the Performing Arts Center downtown in the fall because we were wearing corsets and heavy wool coats and sprinting as fast as we could around dancing, singing. Like I was like basically doing high intensity interval training to prepare for Operation Mincemeat with a British accent. And then I got to like take off the corset and it felt very, easy to run that fast. No, it's such a great show. And, speaking of support, the fan base for Operation Mincemeat is one of the most like extraordinary things I've ever experienced. They are so
Wild.
kind. They are so supportive. They are so loving. They are so generous with their time and their talents. My dressing room is covered in fan art and bracelets and beautiful things that people have taken their time and energy to make for me, and it makes me so emotional every time. But it's just such a great group of people, and having that as the fan base, it penetrates the rest of the audience. Like
Mhm.
people are just really supportive and kind, and when you're doing something as intimidating and terrifying as a show like this where you just have to go out there and like run as fast as you can down a mountain, to know that everyone in the audience wants you to succeed is like such a gift.
Mhm. I mean, I saw an ad in the Playbill that said it was like a quote from someone that's seen the show 50 times. Like
Hmm.
these people are obsessed, and it's so special to see because one, obviously, then they're gonna go see more shows, and like it's just gonna buoy all what is it, high tides rise all ships. Like, I
Yes.
think that is so special. And you were also in the same season as Mincemeat last year. And so, what was
Mhm.
your relationship with the show before stepping into it?
Well, funnily enough, before we knew if Dead Outlaw was coming to Broadway in the spring or the fall, I put myself on tape for the offstage cover for Montague. I was like, oh, I'd get to do it once a week. I'll just like do this for a little while and then go step into Dead Outlaw in the fall. I was like, yeah, I'll do this.
It's
And I
awesome.
made a handful of tapes and got some notes and feedback. And, I was out of town doing beautiful. And so I like made a few tapes and then ultimately we found out about Dead Outlaw and I had to pull myself out of the running. But I had this sort of like star in my eye about this show. And so I bought myself a ticket to see it when I got home from Sarasota. And as soon as, and I won't give anything away, but as soon as the glitzy finale starts,
Mm.
I was like, I have to play this part. I don't know how because Dead Outlaw's going to run forever and Operation Mincemeat is a limited run, but I got to play this part. And now here I am a year later in it, in the thick of it. And I'm enjoying it so much.
And another show that was in last season was the newest revival of Gypsy, a
Mhm.
role I wish I could have seen you do at the Muni with Beth Leavel.
Oh,
Beth Leavel has done like 15 bazillion Broadway shows, and so I'm curious what you learned from her leadership doing Gypsy with her that you have taken with you to shows.
such a great question. I think having someone like Beth to look up to is one of the great gifts of my career so far. She is incredible. She is a true leading lady. And she is an example of like how like everything comes from the top down. And if you can have like a beautiful, profound, supportive star energy up there who wants everyone to succeed, again, rising tides lift all boats. Like she is the example of that. Working with her was incredible. And I was lucky because I was very intimidated, but I just so happened to be almost best friends with her partner, Adam Heller, because we had just done A Letter to Harvey Milk off Broadway together. And so he was playing Herbie, and I had this sort of like I was like, okay, Beth, I love Adam and maybe she'll love me. And then obviously she took me under her wing immediately. And I was less intimidated, still intimidated, but slightly less intimidated by her greatness. But she taught me a lot. She was a great example of like never resting on your laurels. She cares about every performance she gives. She knows who she is, but that doesn't mean she doesn't get nervous. That doesn't mean she doesn't struggle with self-doubt. And to like watch someone that I idolize deal with those things at the point in her career that was feeling at that point in my career and I'm still feeling at this point in my career gave me a lot of solace. And I felt so seen and so much less alone. And I just was like, wow, okay, so we are all just going through this in different ways at the same time. So that was one thing. And also, she had spent a lot of her life understudying because she's such a fierce dancer.
Mhm.
And she said to me, all right, Julia, my piece of advice for you is don't let anyone know you can dance because everyone will make you. And I said, what do you mean? She goes, if you can dance the ensemble track and understudy the lead, it'll be much harder for them to just see you as the lead. This is regionally, this is Broadway, this is like her experience. And she felt that that had kept her from those, like the early days in her career, kept her from getting like the bigger part until she sort of like stripped that from herself and came into her star power. And so I was like, you know what? Why not? I'll give it a shot. And I stopped going to dance calls as like a dancer first. And I just sort of like had a conversation with my agents where I was like, I'm going to pass on these kinds of opportunities because these other opportunities are more in line with what I want. And I have kept it from the world that I am a trained dancer for the last decade. And now the cat's out of the bag at Operation Mincemeat. So there's
I
no turning
mean,
back.
I feel like we have a sweet charity revival in your future. Anything goes. Like,
Oh,
we really,
please.
we
Would
could,
kill.
we could change
Would
lives.
kill. Come
And
on.
I hope this comes out the right way. But I think something very cool about Beth Leavel is like she's always working regionally. She's had a million Broadway shows, but she's not waiting for the next Broadway show to be the only time she performs. And I think that takes the ego out of it. And even people in London I've heard people talk about on the West End, like, oh, someone's like, oh, I'll go do Mamma Mia in the fall and like whatever. Like, there are so many stigmas that I feel like people bring into the industry. And once you let go of that, she can play Dolly and Hello Dolly where she wants. Like, you know what I mean? Like, you can sink your teeth into so
Yeah.
much more.
And I will say she's having a beautiful time in Maine with her partner,
I
like
mean,
eating lobster rolls, skiing on the beach, like that. I admire that quality just the same. Like it is, I love working regionally. I always say yes. I think I am old school in that. Like the Beth is old school in that way, and I am also old school in that way, where it's like I just want to work.
mhm,
I just want to do, and yes, I want to be valued in the places where I work. And yes, I want to be taken care of. And yes, I want to be respected in these places where I work. So there are certain, situations that I'm not going to put myself into at this point. But a great regional contract in a beautiful place for the summer, like, oh, what a dream. If I don't have a Broadway show or an off-Broadway show or developing something new, like I will always say yes to opportunity. And I was just having this conversation with one of my younger actor friends about, the stigma around it, where it's like, well, I don't work regionally. Well, why? There's so many great opportunities and so many great roles that aren't coming back to Broadway or are, but Ariana Grande is playing them. So like if I want to play Dot and Sunday in the Park with George and it can only happen in Chicago, I would love to go to Chicago and do that? And obviously, of course, if a Broadway show calls, Broadway show calls, but when you're between big jobs, I would always rather work than twiddle my thumbs. Always.
totally. And I think a very special part of Louise in Gypsy in particular is her entire evolution is tracked by her clothes. And you can see it
Oh,
so much in the
yeah.
costuming. And so I'm curious for you if there's a role where you feel like the costume really helped you get there with a character, kind of changed your understanding of it.
I mean, Monty is a great example. I didn't know who he was until I put on the suit.
Hmm.
Like I was in rehearsal and I was trying to find how he moves. I'm not someone who like I'm an inside out actor, not an outside in actor. Like I'm never gonna stand and be like, this is how this person walks. Like that's just not how I work. I'm gonna like live with this person in my skin and then I'll discover how he moves, how he walks, how he talks, what his isms are. And as soon as I put that suit on, there's like suspenders and this like starched cotton button down that everything's made in London, so it's like beautifully tailor-made for me. And I was able to request like a little extra shoulder space. I was like, can I have like when I wear blazers, I like a big boxy shoulder. And I was like, can I just get this lengthened a little? And they were like, absolutely. And so like I was able to infuse a little of my own style into Montague, which was thrilling. But no, as soon as I put on that suit, I knew who he was. And like I don't think about him throughout the day, but when I put that costume on, I drop right in.
So interesting. And I love to know this about people, but if you could trade closets with a show's costume department, what show would you want to live in?
Ooh, currently running or like at any time?
Anything, whatever your heart desires.
It's a great question. I'm feeling like Cat on a Hot Tin Roof or like I don't know, some like golden age like play where the women are like in like slips and like maybe like don't have socks on. I don't know, like something like slinky and sexy and like summery.
Love, love. And speaking of summary, we have to talk about your look as a guest judge for Cat's the Jellicle Ball. Give us all the details.
Best day of my life. I truly like they asked if I could do it and I couldn't have said yes faster. It was
Obsessed.
the dream. I love Cats. I saw it off Broadway and I saw it on Broadway already. So I was like, well, I have to show up because these people are giving 180%. And if I'm gonna walk on that stage, I need to look fierce. So I'm a little bit of a procrastinator when it comes to these things. But night before, like running through my closet, like, what am I gonna wear? Like I have these like gorgeous, boxy, like feminine, like 1980s, like wrap dresses. I was like, maybe I could go like that kind of vibe, whatever. And then my partner, who had played Jesus in Jesus Christ Superstar at the Komische Opera in Berlin, Germany, which was a company of 500 people, and they reinvented the style of it because it's Berlin and they're doing whatever they want. And so it was this very like cool, colorful, queer, inventive, avant-garde production where when Jesus died, he came back with a bright pink wig, long wig, and this like crepe 8 foot long cape, and underneath was this beaded metallic sort of sheer pink tie-dye thing.
I'm picturing just
And
Hedwig as Jesus.
it's honestly kind of exactly that.
Okay, perfect.
But this thing somehow made its way home from Germany. And I sort of was like, what are we going to do with this? How are we going to have this in the house? It's so heavy, it's so metal. Like, what are we going to do? And then he pulled it out and he was like, this is what you're wearing. And I was sort of like, no. What? I couldn't. My whole butt would be out. Like, I'm just gonna show tush on a Broadway stage? And he was like, yes, you are. And I sort of was like, I do have the perfect little underwear set I could style under it. And I have these like silver shoes that I could do. And then I was like, I could do a slick back. And then all of a sudden I sent a video just to make sure I wasn't crazy to my godfathers, who are my fashion icons. They've
Obsessed.
been, I know they've been together for almost 50 years. They're my whole life. I love them so much, but they're fabulous and I can trust their taste. Like everything I chose to wear on any red carpet for the last 5 years, I've sent a picture of them to make sure that they approve.
I mean,
Okay.
how lucky to have those two in your pocket.
Truly, they're my secret sauce. They are. Very lucky. But I sent them a video and I was like, this is what my butt will look like, okay? Both cheeks out. Are we sure this is okay? And they wrote back, it's flawless. It's your J-Lo moment. And I was like, okay. So I did it and it was so much fun. And I had the time of my life and I was so happy with the outfit. I will say there was a difference that I felt wearing it in the theater versus like on the streets of New York.
Well, yes.
But I had the time of my life.
That reminds me of like, when you're in high school and you're on vacation with your family and like you're wearing an outfit that you're wearing to a party, not with your family, but you're like, I gotta look cool on vacation. It feels
Yeah.
like that, or almost like a tourist picture where they're wearing running sneakers on the bottom, but they like crop them out because like they have a cool fit on top.
You gotta feature the fit. Yeah.
But it is very vulnerable then to go into the world
Uh-huh.
and see that.
Luckily, my theater was around the corner, so I just like walked in and was like, I'm just gonna change before I go get a sandwich.
Yeah, don't worry about me. Don't worry about me.
Hi guys. Just me, the cat, Jellicle Ball, guest judge.
Casual, very casual. But you
So
do have
casual.
such a unique and like personal sense of style. And so I'm curious, do you have like any people that you would want to put on like your fashion Mount Rushmore? Just like icons that you're like, oh, that if I need inspiration, I'm going to them.
Diane Keaton, number one. Always.
If people haven't seen her house tour, it is the most stunning thing I've ever seen.
She's flawless.
They just had an exhibit in the city of all of her clothes, but
What?
it was sold out and I didn't get in. And I was so mad because it looked so cool. And I happened to then I didn't realize where it was. I was walking by it one day and I was just like looking through the window to see anything I could see because it was
I
I
can't
mean
believe I didn't even hear about this.
the Diane Keaton fan club should have called.
They should have called. They have my number.
I mean, as vice president, you would think they would let you
I would
know.
think. No, I was doing when I was doing Christmas Carol, there were two Tiny Tims in rehearsal with us, and it was Halloween. And I woke up in the morning going, wait, these sweet little girls are going to be dressed up today. I have to wear a Halloween costume because I don't want them to be the only ones who dressed up. And luckily, like a couple other people did, but I was like, what can I be? It's 8 in the morning. I have a 10 a.m. rehearsal. Like, what can I be? I literally owned an entire Annie Hall outfit in my closet, all vintage. I put it on. I was like, wait, this eats. I need to dress like this more often. Only thing I had to buy on my lunch break was the hat, and I had it.
I mean,
Diane is. Oh,
who is she
always.
without her hat?
Who is she? Well, she's still
Well, she's still
she's
Diane.
still. But no, Diane Keaton is like number one because at any age, she's just timeless, flawless, effortless.
Totally.
Another one is Audrey Hepburn. Like I just love like that. I think if Diane leans a little more mask, like Audrey is in a similar world but a little more femme.
Mm.
And I love like clean lines and like a cinched waist and a like a brooch. This shirt feels very Audrey to me, more like French
It reminds
than
me too
anything.
of I love Lee Raswell, Jackie O's sister. That
Yeah.
feels like a perfect in between of those two, also.
Yes,
Where it's like
100%.
it's Prince, it's clean lines, but it's timeless.
Absolutely. And like if there's a a broader category of people that I am always just inspired by, it's European women. Like anytime I go to Europe, which I try to do at least twice a year, like I will run. I
Mm.
get the call and I'm like, I have to go. We have to go to Paris for 48 hours. We just have to. Um, but I like, my God, they just do it better over there. They know how to express themselves. They know how to incorporate, like a timeless piece into a trend and wear things that are well made. And so much of it is secondhand. A lot of my shopping, like I've started over the last 5 years, just going to Europe with an empty suitcase because
Oh,
there's such great thrifting, such great thrifting.
yeah.
And I can like look on the streets and be like, oh, I want to wear a scarf like that. Cool. Let me go find one. Whoop, tie it around my neck and copy the cool girls.
I agree. I feel like the fast fashion plague is not as rampant there.
Mm.
And so people, I think that's the best part of vintage too, is like, oh, what are you naturally drawn to? And like, what is speaking to you versus, okay, this is on sale, whatever, it's $5.
Exactly. And like a few years ago, I had a realization that whenever I was doing a closet clean out, the only things I was regularly giving away were like new clothes. Anything I bought from Zara, anything I bought from H&M, anything I bought from like even Free People sometimes. Like I was just sort of like, I've grown out of this. And the things that I spent $5 on at the thrift store have been in my closet for 12, 15 years.
Hmm.
And I still wear them all the time.
Yeah.
And I made a rule for myself. I tried to see how long I could go without buying anything new for my body and was just like, okay, I can do this. And actually, I love this. And now I have just like a really nice collection of clothing that I'm excited to put on all the time.
Is there a vintage piece that you feel like was meant to find you that you're like, oh, this was mine in every life?
Yes. Two. One, a leather jacket that I got in Lisbon, where I woke up that day and I said, today I'm going to find my leather jacket.
Iconic.
And I did. And it was perfect. And I love it. And I wear it as soon as it gets cold. It's the first thing I put on. I love this jacket. It's boxy, it's masculine. It's like the perfect oversize. I love it so much. And then uh there's this silky skirt. It's like very tight fitting that I got in the middle of a rainstorm. This sounds so romantic,
I
actually.
was gonna say, it sounds cinematic.
It's cinematic. It's get this. We're in Venice and it's raining and I don't have an umbrella. And so I'm like, well, I guess I'll just go into this shop and it's a gorgeous vintage shop, of course. And I find this skirt and I remember like I wasn't really feeling like myself, my body, like I was eating a lot of pasta, which like I love the way that like I love my curves. I love my body at any time of my life, but I sort of was like feeling a little self-conscious in this like skin tight skirt. And this woman who doesn't know me comes out of her dressing room and goes, that's spectacular. You need that. And I was like, oh, thanks. She's like, no, 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 it was made for you. This is your skirt. I love it. And I was like, oh, okay, thanks. And in this moment of like really feeling vulnerable, she just, she buoyed me in such a fierce, like sisterhood way. And I wear that skirt all the time.
I think that like the dressing rooms in a store is such a vulnerable place.
Mhm,
And it's such a community thing that like it's so specific. And I think I'm obsessed with in-person shopping. Like online shopping, I'll do it, but like it doesn't speak to me. But like
mhm,
the not to sound ridiculous, but like the community experience of that reminds me of theater, where it's like we're all
mhm.
experiencing vulnerability at the same
Exactly.
time.
And it's what happens in a girl's dressing room backstage. Like
Mm.
I love that I came up in the ensemble because I have some of my fondest Broadway memories are in the girls' room, are like all sitting around in our underwear talking about our boyfriends and our problems and our bruises and our, like what we ate for lunch and just sort of like that sisterhood that comes from like a communal space where you all feel safe enough to dress and undress and like you immediately connect on a deeper level. And it's
And the
so
tea is
beautiful.
piping.
The tea, baby. Speaking of NDAs, no.
Oh my God. Yeah, imagine.
No, the tea is piping though.
And you know what? Also to be in high school and to be in a dressing room like that.
Yeah.
And how cool
Crazy.
though to know so many different kids from different places that all had the same dream as you. I feel like that probably was so reaffirming.
It's so reaffirming. And anytime I work with kids at this point in my career, which I had the lovely opportunity to do yesterday with a bunch of kids at a camp where we like went and had a talk back with them and sang a few songs, and I just was reminded like how many hundreds of thousands, if not millions of people want to build a life in the theater and want to have a career doing what I get to do every day. And when I'm doing something hard, like Operation Mincemeat, that's like tricky on my body, tricky on my voice, tricky on my spirit sometimes, like to be reminded how lucky I am and how my inner child is living her dreams is it's so invigorating. It's so remarkable. And I just it's such a good reminder how lucky I am.
Oh my God, I could talk to you all day.
I
Well,
know I'm having such a lovely time.
thank
You're the
you
best.
so much for joining us. This has been literally such a treat.
Same. Thanks for having me.
And that's our show. Be sure to rate, review, and subscribe to Dress Rehearsal. If you love theater and fashion as much as we do, invite another diva to join the community. You can find us on Instagram, TikTok, Spotify, Apple Podcast, YouTube, all the places. See you next time.